everyone. Welcome to another episode of Not Atypical Real Estate Marketing Show, the show where we explore all things creative in an effort to move the real estate marketing industry forward. My name is Mark.
And I'm Sky.
And we are the founders of Atypical. So today's show, we are going to be exploring inspiration from outside of the real estate industry. As an agency, we work exclusively in commercial real estate, and one of our challenges is finding creative ways to tell our clients stories and really highlight their sort of differentiating factors. And part of our creative process is drawing inspiration from outside of the industry, whether that's film or ad campaigns or books or photographs. So today we wanted to share two campaigns with you that we've been chatting about in the agency recently, and hopefully they inspire some creative inspiration.
We've got a bit of a thing at Atypical called the dinner table test, and it's kind of our way of seeing whether or not a campaign is good enough. And it's, is the campaign good enough that you'll go home and talk about it with your spouse or your partner or your family? And so the two campaigns that we're going to talk about today definitely pass the dinner table test, and we'll give you some tips and tricks on how to kind of sense check your own campaigns for that test as well.
Cool. So sticking with tradition, before we jump into today's topic, we wanted to share the South African product with you. So today's featured South African product is a creamy liqueur called Marula.
So there's actually a little bit of a story around why we decided to choose this product. We had a totally different product set for today, and then changed our minds at the last minute. I have recently come back from a family holiday in Zimbabwe, which is on the border of South Africa, if you don't know it. And we spent a bit of time on Lake Kariba, where we were fortunate enough to see wild elephants, like herds of them every single day. It was the most incredible experience, and I am crazy about elephants. It's my favorite animal. So I was beside myself with excitement. So we thought it was only fitting to feature Marula today. This is made from the Marula fruit, which comes from the Marula tree. And that Marula tree, it is locally referred to as the elephant tree because elephants absolutely love the fruit. They'll literally travel for miles to kind of feast on the fruit when it is in season. So that's where Marula comes from.
So the main ingredient of Marula is obviously Marula,
fruit,
and these trees grow throughout Africa, but they only bloom once a year. So the process of making Marula, the first step is they de-stone the fruit, and then they crush the flesh and leave the pulp to ferment. Then once it's fermented, the sort of Marula wine is distilled, and it's aged in a French oak barrel for 2 years, which gives it that sort of woody vanilla flavor, taste. And then the next thing is it's infused with dairy, which gives it this sort of velvety, creamy sort of texture and feel. So yeah, this is a classic South African drink, either on ice or neat after dinner, sipping it while the sun goes down. It's it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. The bottle literally says best enjoyed neat or on ice, and ideally with a view. So you can interpret that.
A view of animals. So try to find some animals when you're sipping on your Marula.
Or come to Africa and then watch the elephants. There is a bit of a legend that apparently the elephants eat so much of the fruit, and when it's in the sun it obviously ferments a little bit, that they get drunk off of it and that you can see the elephants swaying. Apparently it's scientifically impossible, but
they would have to eat a lot of fruit.
They would have to eat a lot of fruit, but it's a cool story, so let's go with it.
We love cool stories.
Yeah. Who cares about whether or not it's true?
We're going with it.
It's delicious, and we have included a link below. You can buy it directly off the Marula website, and I've added another one for international purchasing as well, just in case.
Beautiful. Okay, so on to today's first campaign that we wanted to chat about. The first one is the Moldy Whopper. So in February 2020, Berger King unveiled a global campaign which they wanted to highlight their sort of commitment to dropping artificial preservatives in all of their products. And the campaign was basically the sort of Whopper burger and all of its ingredients and shown how it was engulfed by mold over sort of 30 days. So it had either stills or video, and it would show the sort of days that the burger had been exposed to the elements, and it was really this kind of disgusting burger that was moldy after 30 days, with the tagline underneath that said, "The beauty of no artificial preservatives." So let's take a quick look at the video, and yeah, then we'll discuss what we think. So given that they were not trying to increase short-term sales and that they were more focused on sort of highlighting their commitment to no preservatives in their product, and that they were trying to sort of future-proof the brand against the audience's perception of fast food and preservatives, like, how do you think they did? What kind of stood out for you?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think they probably definitely set out, well, definitely achieved what they set out to. But, you know, my initial reaction when looking at that, and I'm sure it's like most people's, was that it's really gross and kind of disgusting. And I'd be so interested to know kind of how that changed public perception around burgers, because you definitely, I mean, look, they weren't looking to increase sales, but you definitely look at that and you don't want a burger. I mean, and, you know, did it change the way people perceived Burger King, that when they thought of Burger King, they thought of the moldy Whopper? Or do they still think of Burger King now as like, oh, it's preservative free and it's yummy and tasty? So I'd just be interested if they did do any kind of studies like that. But I think it's a phenomenal campaign, and just so different to anything else that's out there, those like collagen pumped burger buns that you're so used to seeing in the adverts.
I suppose if you're going to buy a burger, like if you're walking to buy a burger and you think of that moldy burger, are you more or less inclined to go to Burger King versus, you know, McDonald's or one of the other Wendy's? Or is it going to stop you from going to buy a burger altogether and you're going to go to KFC? I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So how did they do?
Yeah, so interesting. I mean, my sort of three kind of reasons why I think they nailed the campaign, and the reason it kind of stood out to me was, number one, they created a strong reaction. So there's no doubt that the people who saw this ad had a very strong reaction to the visuals and the campaign. And that means that it was shareable. So you'll see with the number of sort of media impressions that it got, it was definitely content that was shareable on social media. The second thing was that they achieved their intended sort of reaction, which was to disgust people. So they wanted the burger to look disgusting, and they certainly achieved that, no doubt. And the third thing was that they pushed a clear marketing message. So they set out to communicate the message that their product was going preservative free, and that's exactly what they delivered. They didn't sort of complicate the message. They didn't sort of try and weave in too many different sort of narratives and stories. Preservative free, that's what they wanted to tell you, and that's what they did. In terms of the metrics, so they had 8.4 million organic media impressions, which is huge. And then the video watch time on Facebook was 1.4 million minutes on Facebook, and 39% of the people who watched the video watched it for the full 45-second duration, which is...
And that's huge.
Yeah, that is huge. So looking at lessons learned and how they could possibly be applied to the sort of real estate industry. So number one was they were very clear about their sort of differentiating factor. And what I really enjoyed was that their differentiator was more about their why around sort of preservative free, as opposed to their what and their how. I think a lot of people try and highlight their products or services or their value proposition and focus on what they do or sort of how they do it, and forget that the why is probably more important as a differentiator. So that's a big one. The second one is they were very clear about what their campaign objectives were. So they weren't trying to push short-term sales. They weren't trying to sort of boost social media sort of following. they were very clear about what they were trying to do. And I think a lot of times campaigns fail to define what their objectives are up front. And then in analyzing the sort of ROI of the campaign after the fact, it's difficult to sort of measure. And then the third one is, if you want to get 8.4 million organic media impressions, you can't be afraid to sort of face some criticism and take some heat. So if you want to do something bold, you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to push the envelope.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
So that's my campaign. What have you got for us today?
So my campaign is a little bit older. It's from 2015, but it's literally the one thing that always pops to my mind when I'm looking for some creative inspiration. It's called Dumb Ways to Die, and it was created by McCann Melbourne for Melbourne Metro Trains. So Metro Trains went to McCann with a problem. They were experiencing a lot of foolish behavior, well, an increasing amount of foolish behavior around trains, which was resulting in an increase in serious injuries and in some cases death. So they needed to create kind of awareness around railway safety and just start making people more aware of the serious risks that they were taking. So unlike most campaigns that are probably like most metro campaigns, they kind of put a couple of billboards up and a couple of posters that tell you what not to do around trains. McCann flipped this completely on its head, and instead of doing this sort of single ad approach, they created a very melodical, very comedic video that kind of told the way of all sorts of different dumb ways to die using globally sort of referenced characters, and then kind of ended off with, you know, all the different ways that you can die around trains, and that was kind of the dumbest way to die. So let's take a quick look at the video, and then I'll kind of chat a little bit more about it.
Set fire to your hair, poke a stick at a grizzly bear, eat medicine that's out of date, use your private parts as piranha bait. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Get your toast out with a fork, do your own electrical work, teach yourself how to fly, eat a 2-week-old unrefrigerated pie. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Invite a psycho killer inside, scratch a drug dealer's brand new ride. Take your helmet off in outer space, use a clothes dryer as a hiding place. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Keep a rattlesnake as a pet, sell both your kidneys on the internet. Eat a tube of super glue. I wonder, what's this red button do? Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dress up like a moose during hunting season, disturb a nest of wasps for no good reason. Stand on the edge of a train station platform, drive around the boom gates at a level crossing, run across the tracks between the platforms. They may not rhyme, but they're quite possibly the dumbest ways to die. The dumbest ways to die. The dumbest ways to die. So many dumb ways to die. Be safe around trains, a message from Metro.
So the campaign achieved instant virality. It's been watched over 200 million times. It's been shared 5 million times, over 5 million times. And I mean, within the marketing space, it's one of the most well-known campaigns. But I think for me, what makes it so successful is that they knew who their audience was and they created content that they knew would resonate with that group. So a large portion of who they were targeting with this campaign was a younger generation, and they knew that young people don't like to be told what not to do. So instead, they created and used humor to create a really funny, an interesting and exciting way to start the conversation around railway safety. And I think that that's the biggest thing for me, is they gave a face to railway safety and they got people talking about it. And people weren't sharing the video because they were excited about being safe around trains. They were sharing it because it was funny, and it was engaging and it was interesting and it was different to what they were seeing. So I think they really hit that viral aspect on the head. And you can tell from the video that they were aiming for that sort of long-term viral sort of campaign strategy. They even used characters that are internationally recognized, not just sort of Melbourne or Australia animals and references. So for me, I think they did an excellent job at kind of just getting it to go viral, getting people excited about it, and again, using humor to tell that story.
Definitely.
And I mean, my second kind of favorite thing about it is that they didn't just use an advertising strategy, they actually used a content one. So a lot of people kind of create one single ad and rely on that one ad to tell their message effectively. And I think what McCann did was a really good job of creating one piece of amazing content and then lots of supporting pieces of content that kind of added to that message and got people excited about it. They created GIFs, they created, you could obviously download the song, they even have a children's book, they had a mobile game that you could play. So yeah, I was just wildly impressed by it. I think they did a brilliant job of telling a story. And they also were able to achieve what they set out to. Straight after the campaign, they saw a 21% decrease in sort of accidental injuries and deaths around trains. And I think originally, so at the end of the video, it took you to a sort of a landing page where you could pledge your safety around trains. And their initial goal was around 100,000 pledges. And I think at the end, or at the moment, they've got 127 million pledges. So it certainly has made people more aware around safety. And it's just really entertaining.
Yeah, very well done. I think both of the campaigns that we looked at today have been B2C focused, and I think a lot of the learnings is that in a B2B environment, using things like storytelling and humor and these kinds of concepts are still very they apply. Just because somebody's at work doesn't mean that they're not going to share something if it's funny, or talk about it that night if it was interesting, or sparked a sort of emotional response. So don't be afraid to sort of look at the B2C environment or outside of real estate for inspiration and kind of bring that back.
Particularly when you've got a product that might be a little bit boring or might be a little bit difficult to sell, because we see it a lot with our technology clients. Their products are not tangible. People can't sort of see them and understand the value of them immediately. So using that storytelling concept and adding something like humor that people can relate to really goes a long way in helping getting your message out there and resonating with your target audience.
Yeah. Cool. So that is pretty much it for us for today. We wanted to leave you with something from one of our favorite books. An author, Jonah Berger, writes a book called Contagious. And in the book, he talks about the 6 key steps, so STEPPS, that make a campaign or an idea contagious. So he really does put it really well in the book. So I'm going to read them to you, and instead of trying to ad-lib it. So the 6 steps. Number 1 is social currency. So people care about how they look to others. They want to seem smart, cool, and in the know. So be sure to find the inner remarkability and make people feel like insiders. Number 2 is triggers. Top of mind means tip of tongue. So consider the context and grow your habitat so that people are frequently triggered to think about your product or idea. Number 3 is emotion. When we care, we share. Emotional content often goes viral, so focus on feelings rather than function. Number 4 is public. built to show, built to grow. The more public something is, the more likely people will imitate it. Design products and initiatives that advertise themselves and create some visible behavioral residue. Number 5 is practical value. News you can use, useful things get shared. So highlight incredible value and expertise so that people can easily pass it on. And finally, number 6 is stories. Information travels under what seems like idle chatter. Stories are vessels, so build a Trojan horse. Create a narrative or story that people would want to tell, which carries your idea along for the ride. So that is it from us for today. Please make sure to subscribe and look out for episode 4 coming soon.
Beautiful. Thanks. We'll see you soon. And if you haven't read Contagious, do yourself a favor. We've added a link below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you on episode 4.
Cheers.